This is not a studio flash. This is an on-camera or an off-camera flash. It is not a studio flash. This and this is a studio flash. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about what a studio flash is in my book and what they are good for. Now, this is not just for the portrait photographer. This is not just for the wedding photographer. This can be used for architecture. This can be used for product shots. This can be used for, well, nature. I don't like any flash for wildlife. I am so much against it. And honestly, I think it should be banned because animals just don't need that power going off. So it can be used for a lot of stuff. But let's get into it. Let's talk about what it is. First of all, who am I? My name is Mike Patterson. I'm a professional photographer. I'm located here in southern Alberta, Canada. I've been doing this for over 38 years. Yeah, I'm old. And I love it. And I do my videos to help you get more from your photography. And if you want to set your photography apart, if you want to become more professional in what you do, a studio flash may be something that you should be looking at. So let's get into it. What types of studio flashes? Well, let's get into the 4 major types of studio flashes that they are. There's actually 3, but that's what. A lot of people, like I said, call these studio flashes. You'll find out in a second why I don't think they are. But some people say you can get these and make them into studio flashes. No. The second type is what's called a hot flash or a hot light. It's not even a flash. It is a light bulb. It's a very powerful light bulb. It is a light bulb that will light up the room. Many times you need multiples of those. They were hot. And they were really hot. In Canada, where I live, in the wintertime, you could leave the doors open and have hot lights on inside, and you would still be sweating buckets. I've seen products melt because the room was so hot. I've seen photographers melt because the room was hot. I've seen models pass out because the rooms were so hot. They had their purpose. They still have their purposes, but it's slim to none. You need a lot of them. They were very low power, and they got really hot. Then we move into what we have now, what I'm using for here, which is an LED light. It lights up the room, it lights up for my product, and away you go. It is not as hot. It's called a cool light or a cold light. Misnomer, because in my books, LED lights still get hot. Not as hot as hot lights by any means, but to get enough of them to get the depth of field that you'll want in certain situations, you're going to have multiple banks of them, and it's going to warm up the room. They still have their purpose, they still have their uses, but they're not in my book in any way, shape, or form a studio light like these. Now, I'm not sponsored by these companies. These are just 2 that I have in my studio. I love both of them. This is my oldest one. It's from Paul C. Buff. It's a white lightning. Love it. I've had it for years. It's done hundreds of thousands of shots, and it works great. This one's called Strobe Pro. It's from a company from Calgary, Alberta. I love it as well. Great unit. And I'll talk about both of them in a second. What do I think makes a studio light, though, a studio light? And I'm going to contradict myself in a second about this. But the first thing is plugging it in. I like a studio flash that you can plug in. And that's what I think makes a studio flash. Because you can fire this for an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, 14 hours. And it's going to go over and over and over again and never run out of power when it's plugged in. It works great for that. The other thing that makes it work so great is when it's firing off, because it's got full power, because you're always getting the same color light, you're always getting the same temperature of light, you're always getting the same intensity of light, you're always getting the same everything of light. It's so great. And that's what I like about them. Now, can you fire them constantly? Can you go bang, 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 bang? Depending upon your light, you may be able to. Some lights you can, some lights you can't. This one here, I currently have what's called a modeling light on. I'm going to talk about that in a second. I've also got it turned down to the very lowest power. And I'm going to fire it off, and you'll see how quick that it recharges by when the modeling light comes back on again. So we're going to take a picture, and there, it's back on again. We're going to take a picture, it's back on again. We're going to take a picture, it's back on. So it's about a second, 2 seconds for it to come on. That's on lowest power. Now let's go up to highest power. So at the highest power, we take a picture, and there we are. Highest power, take a picture, and there we are. It does take some time to recharge. One reason I recommend to all my students and everybody that talks to me about getting studio lights is I always tell them to get a bigger studio light than what you're going to need, because if you're not firing it at full power, that's hard to say, then it's going to recharge quicker than if you're always firing it at the highest power setting. So I'm going to talk about that in a bit as well. So what else makes a studio light in my book? Well, we already talked about it. We're going to turn this up here, and we're going to turn that, and that is a modeling light. What do modeling lights do? Well, modeling lights allow you to see how your light is going to fall on your subject. So you can see if it's going to cast shadows. You can see everything about it before you take the picture. Sure, you can take a picture. You can use a flash and move a flash around and take pictures and have this do similar to this. But this is so much nicer. It allows you to see what you're getting for shadowing, for lighting, before you actually take the picture. It's great. It's wonderful. What else do I think makes a good studio light, or a studio light in general? Well, that is the ability to adjust it. And here we're going to turn it here to this setting, and you can see how just by the modeling light intensity, it's also the intensity of the flash itself. It's getting less and it's getting more. So if you go into a small room like this one, you can turn it way down and you can take a picture. If you go into a gymnasium, you can crank those suckers up and you can just light up that gymnasium. I have seen some amazing work done on dance floors, receptions. I have done some amazing work for large groups of people where I've taken multiple lights in and lit up 75 people stacked on bleachers and lit up the entire room. And it was a massive room with the studio lights and got amazing pictures out of it. That's what it allows you to do. It allows you to bring light wherever you go. Now, I said I was going to contradict myself, so let's get into the contradiction right here. I told you a studio light is so you can plug it in and get repeated results. I also like with a studio light being able to have a battery pack with it. Now, a few years ago, you would have to buy a studio light and a battery pack together because that was just the way it was. Now you can go and get these external battery packs for camping, for emergencies or whatever, and you can plug them into that. I love that because when I go to certain locations that don't have power readily available, that I can just plug it in. I've used generators, I've used long extension cords, but having the battery pack with it to allow you to go in different locations is great. But I also like being able to plug in, so that's another thing. What else makes a studio flash in my book? Well, right here, we're going to grab this here. This is the remote that goes on the camera. This is the receiver that goes on the light. You can have mini receivers, and you can, from your camera, control the power of your unit, turn it on, turn it off, do so many different things with it so that you can adjust it without having to go to each light. Perfect example. You're doing a wedding reception. You've got the dance floor lit up by multiple studio lights. You want to do something a little bit more romantic. You don't want to see the people in the background. So you could go in here and say, okay, all the lights that are in the background I have on group 2. Group 2, off. Now when you take the pictures, only the main lights that light up your subjects will be on. I don't want my main lights quite so bright. There we go. Click, there we are. I want my background lights on, but not so bright. Click, there we are. All from the transmitter. You can get more basic transmitters. You can get more advanced transmitters. But I think a studio light should have a good transmitter on it so that you can adjust it. The other thing, side note, used to be the studio lights came with a cord that ran to your camera. The worst thing. Whatever you can do, if you're buying studio lights, get a good remote. Get a wireless remote that works on a radio frequency. Why a radio frequency? Because if you just get it so that the lights go off when other lights fire, all night stuff will be setting them off for different reasons. This, once it's plugged in, nobody can trigger my flashes until I push the button myself. So I like that. All right, other things. What should you be looking for if you're looking for studio flashes? Get studio flashes that have different adapters you can put on them. Different hoods, umbrellas, soft boxes, barn doors, snoots, whatever you've got. If you want to put gels on them, make sure they have gel holders. Don't get one that doesn't have the accessories, because you may not need the accessories today, but you will probably want them tomorrow. So get the good accessories. Now, I talked a little bit before about the power. If you're buying studio lights, don't buy the power you want today or for today's job. Buy them powerful enough that you're going to be able to use them in the future. Big mistake a lot of people make. They go out and they buy 100 watt second and they think that's plenty, that's great, that's more than I need. Then a month later, 2 months later, they're asked to do a bigger event. Ooh, these aren't powerful enough, I need more. Get something with more power than you need and you can dial it down. All right, other accessories. Get yourself a good, and I mean a really good tripod, good stand for it, and one that goes up high. I love this stand. It's an air cushion stand. This one is not. Air cushion means when you let go and it goes down, it doesn't just go slam, it goes down slowly. I love it for that. I absolutely love it over this stand. Problem is, this one only goes up about 7 feet. It's not high enough with people. This one goes up to 16 feet. It is massive when you put it all the way up. A little bit wobbly, I'll admit, but this one barely gets over people's heads. So if you're going to get a tripod, if you're going to get it's a light stand is what it is. If you're going to get a light stand, make sure it goes up high enough. Now, one other thing, and this doesn't make a studio light, but if you are getting a studio light, get them with a good carrying case. This one came with a good carrying case. Okay, it cost me 150 bucks. Packs up, it's got wheels on it. I can take it anywheres. This one, when I bought it, didn't have a carrying case with it. The problem with it is that when I'm packing it up, I'm trying to stuff it into different stuff. Carrying case makes a huge, huge, huge difference. So I hope that helps. If you do go with studio lights, it will set your photography apart so much more than the people who don't use it. It allows you to shoot in different buildings. It allows you to get better quality picture. It just opens up so many more opportunities for you. But if you can't afford them, consider renting them. Try them out. Rent them for a weekend. Rent them for a week. Rent them for a month. And try them out to see what you can do with them. See if it will make a difference. If you have an event coming up that you need them at, rent them. Bet you once you rent them, you will buy them. Why do I know that? Because I used to rent these out, and everybody that rented them went out and bought their own set because they loved them so much. So studio lights do change the whole game, and they will set you above your competition. So until next time, get out there, take some amazing pictures, use flashes, use studio lights, and tell me below what you think about using studio lights if you've ever used them. We'll talk to you again. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.